Everyone okay with recording? Martin. Vicky Borrego.
Very good. Yes.
Oh, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Martin, how do you pronounce your last name, Martin?
Fair.
Okay. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. Anybody got any good jokes?
Someone's got to have a dad joke.
Terrible jokes. Bonus points if you come up with a joke.
What's red and smells like blue paint?
What?
Red paint.
I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that?
What's red and smells like blue paint?
What?
Red paint.
Ha!
All right. That broke
I'm a
the ice.
9-year-old, so yeah, my 9-year-old.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. I think should we wait till 5 after and then get going?
What do you call a deer that can't see?
Blinded. I give up.
No idea. What do you call a deer that can't see and can't walk?
No idea. I give up.
You were onto it, Jim. Still no idea.
I'm definitely going to remember that one to tell my son.
Still no idea.
I'm gonna tell my husband.
Also have 2 sons. Yeah, I'm full of them. I got more of those, but I think I'll spare you. I was gonna make a joke. Is like, why does everybody choose the 3rd week of the month to host the recurring meetings?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Why?
No,
Why?
I don't know. I'm trying to make up a funny line on that. Let's fill in the caption. Just happens.
We need to get our sons thinking about some kind of snarky response to that will make everyone laugh.
Because it was, I don't know, idea.
The second was full. No. All right, Rob is here. Rob Crummett. Thank you.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
I'm not sure this is the right meeting for me. I'm trying to learn about California grants, and I understand you guys help with them. Is that correct?
Yes, we help with the CAL FIRE grants, California grants.
Okay, perfect. I guess I am in the right spot then.
All right, you'll learn a little bit about that.
Good.
All right, let's get started. My name's Jim Adriance. I'm one of the Forest Business Alliance team members, and we have a grant with CAL FIRE to help groups that are applying to and implementing projects with CAL FIRE with the workforce, the wood products and bioenergy program. Thank you very much for being here. This is the peer learning network of the Forest Business Alliance. So our purpose here is to encourage people to learn from each other, to connect with each other, and share ideas and start to build a network of people working on forest management, biomass management, small business development related to that, workforce development, This is our 6th meeting. And each time we have a plenary speaker, and our Tom Macejko has joined us today. Thank you very much, Tom, from Chicago, who will be speaking about finance and various finance options for small business. Let's see, the purpose of I put in the chat, since the purpose of the Peer Learning Network is for you all participants to get to know each other. We've created this Google group that will become the way we communicate with you all, and you'll have access to each other's emails there. Right now, if you're interested in connecting with folks, you can put your email in the chat right now, or you can reach out to individuals in the group like, hey, I'd like to talk with you later. So we really want to encourage people to connect with each other and not just look at the plenary speaker and then disappear and wait till the next month. Because I think we know that you all have a lot more to learn from each other than from us. So the people that are actually on the ground working are great teachers of many lessons that need to be shared. Other people in the group, Carrie and Chris, are also members of the Forest Business Alliance. They're with us. Vance is our fearless leader. He's unable to come today. He had a conflict. And then our other member of the Forest Business Alliance team is Kathleen, and she's also traveling today, so couldn't join us. So there's a lot of us to help. If you want to connect with us individually, we offer that kind of assistance. We have templates and recorded workshops on our website, which is theforestbusinessalliance.org. And there's a lot of information there to help you with your proposals, basically to CAL FIRE. That's the main point. And also there's templates there for developing a business plan. Chris has done some wonderful templates and workshops on budgeting and things that will go beyond just the CAL FIRE proposal process, but will hopefully help, especially for that. We have breakout groups in this. We'd like to have breakout groups in each of our monthly meetings, and the topics have generally, we like to let people choose which groups they want to be in. And up till now, we've had topics such as business development, sawmills, workforce, forest management, maybe biomass management might be a topic for us. Today, I've started forming some breakout groups that I'm going to allow people to pick their own. So there'll be a time when it'll be time to pick your breakout group. And in the meantime, if there are topics that you particularly you'd like to join with others to talk about, put those in the chat so I can see those. Like let's say you see the breakout groups that I've created and you don't see one that you wish was there, right? Tell me what that is, or tell the group, hey, I'd like to talk about this topic. And then if there's a couple people that want to talk about that, we can create that breakout group. Now we do introductions now. We put aside a decent amount of time at the beginning right now for introductions. So each person would like to go around the room here and have each person introduce themselves. And in particular, tell us where you are, the types of challenges you're dealing with and working on. And then just as importantly, what types of things you might be able to offer, or things that you feel like you could be a resource about for other folks in the group. And so I'll start. Let's see. Before I start, are there any questions about? I did put the agenda in the chat. If you had a chance to listen to that or look at that, sorry. Does anyone have any questions or comments so far before we dive into introductions and then hearing from Tom? Everything okay so far? Okay, so I'll start. My name is Jim Adrians. I live in Portland, Oregon. I've worked with some peer networks in the past. Vance and I have had that experience together. And I have a background in natural resource economics, rural development. I also worked 17 years with a federal government grant making foundation, so I have some experience with government grants. And I think within this network, I'm most interested in kind of the workforce questions, especially the Hispanic community that I've worked a lot with here in Oregon. And there's a lot of land-based workforce that maybe doesn't know how to, but is not as familiar with the forest world. So I'm interested in that piece. I think that's good. So I think what we'd like to do is have each person, I'll pick the next person, and then they can pick the following person and do some introductions that way. Sound good? All right, I'll pick, Sherilyn, sorry, Sherilyn is another member of our team, the Forest Business Alliance team. She's our newest member. So I'm going to call on her to introduce herself and tell us about her background.
Okay, it'll be quick, but I'm Sherilyn and I just joined the Forest Business Alliance group as the tribal liaison. So I have worked with a federally recognized tribe for several years and then have also done some work with non-federally recognized tribes across the state. I have my daughter here with me today. So yes, I'm just gonna end it there then. I'm here with the team, can be a resource. We're happy to support you all.
Excellent. Now you call on someone else, Sherilyn.
That's right. Okay, Tom, you're next in my screen.
Great, and you'll be hearing quite a bit from me later, so I won't go on for too long here. Tom Macejko, I'm based in Chicago, and I am an investor, an advisor, board member, strategic thinker, helping organizations, think about their future, think about their financing, think about their growth strategies. So again, you'll hear more from me going forward, and I'll turn it over to Carrie now.
Hi everyone, I'm Carrie Rennie, and I'm part of the Forest Business Alliance team as well. I don't have any business specific experience, but I've been a grant writer for a little more than 15 years. And most of that time has been work on federal, state, and foundation grant program. Almost all of it water and forest related, although the water and watershed related topics were first, and then forests and forest management, as I'm sure all of you on this call know, have become more and more central to so many of our conversations. So yeah, I'm here to work with you for technical assistance. You can reach out to me with questions about the guidelines, questions about your applications, questions about reviewing, not drafting, but reviewing the content that you write. That's really one of my primary roles here. So I'll put my email address in the chat, but also just through forestbusinessalliance@gmail.com. You can reach me and others on the team for grant specific technical assistance. Let's see. And I will pass it to Temra.
Hi, everybody. Tamara Costa calling from Sonoma County today. And I represent two organizations and efforts. One is Regenerative Forest Solution, which is managing a pilot to establish a woody feedstock aggregation entity for our county. And the second, which really brought me here today with that hat at the forefront, is my work with Forestry Collective. We're a small vertically integrated furniture company, and we're looking for financing for this year. We're early stage. We did receive a CAL FIRE and a U.S. Forest Service grant, but we're looking for some capital. So excited to hear from you, Tom. Thank you.
All right, Tamara, you have to call on someone else.
Ephraim. Did I say that right?
Yes, not a problem. I accept anything close to my name, so that's terrific. Yes, my name is Ephraim or Ephraim. I go by whatever. So I'm here from Taylor Energy. We're a employee-owned technology company based down in Riverside. So our technology focuses on beginning to end processes for waste to fuel. And we're submitting a proposal for a preliminary engineering study for a biomass or forest waste to hydrogen gasification plant that would go down in the Riverside, San Bernardino, Inland Empire area. Right now, we own our own 5-ton, just kind of demonstration scale gasification plant that's located on UC Riverside's CSERT site. I don't know if you've heard of that before. It's their Center for Environmental Research and Technology. But yeah, I'm excited to be able to be here, represent the company. The other ones are preparing for another phone call with CAL FIRE later today for the project consultation. But I have lots of questions. Most of our funding has come from grants, but more so from the energy sector. So for example, we recently completed a few grants from the California Energy Commission, and that were focused towards forest biomass to renewable gas or to electricity generation. But this represents our kind of first foray into forest and forest management grants. And so we have a lot to learn there in terms of target audience, or making sure that our proposals, grants, projects are catered to, or just formatted and proposed in the correct way that would be beneficial to forest management. So I'm excited to be here to learn about that. And I'll pass it to Christopher.
Thanks, Frame. Yeah, my name is Christopher Sacco. I'm part of the FBA team as well. I work a lot with Carrie, providing technical assistance on the CAL FIRE applications. And as Jim noted, I've developed a number of templates to help you applicants do the preparatory work for those applications, think through, all the various steps required to prepare a competitive proposal. Pretty much in a nutshell, my experience, I've been doing grants and federal grants and state grants and foundation grants for 20 plus years. So I've got a little bit of experience with that, and happy to help you if you have questions as you work your way through the process. Let's see who has not gone. Jess, have you gone? Go ahead.
My name is Jess. I'm a small business owner in Sonoma County. I'm an arborist and a sawmill owner operator. I'm looking to learn more about biomass production and how I can grow my business in that direction, and kind of gain more knowledge about how to take advantage of grants and to get equipment regarding biomass production. So I'm just looking to learn here, and that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Or Jess, you gotta call on the next person.
Oh, I don't know. Has everybody been called upon?
Not yet.
Becky? Oh, wait.
Yeah, I don't think Becky's gone.
Okay, thank you. I'm a grant writer. I've done a couple of federal grants, NIH and IMH, and I thought I could help a friend with his CAL FIRE one. And I'm here to learn because this is tough. This is tough, but I'm ready for the challenge. And luckily, this kind of thing stimulates me. So I will have, I'm sure, lots of questions. Thank you for putting this on. And thank you for the templates. They have helped.
Thank you for joining us.
Do I call on to, I don't know if there's anybody else. I've got a new computer that I'm not quite sure how to use yet.
Yes, you call on somebody. Call on Rob.
Rob, guess what? I'm calling on you.
Sure. So I briefly introduced myself, Rob Crummett. I'm working as a forestry consultant, hoping to write a CAL FIRE grant for a wood yard that's located in Chico, California, and was just looking to learn through this call. I've already learned a lot, that there's some templates that I can look at. And so that's where I'm at. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You have to call on there's one last person. No, two other people haven't gone yet.
Okay, give me a clue. What's their name?
Let me try Peter.
How about Peter?
Hey, thanks. So my name is Peter Folks. I'm from Cerro Costa Community College. We cover everywhere from just southeast of Bakersfield, so the Tehachapi area, all the way up to Bishop, Mammoth Lakes, and up to the border with Nevada. So we cover a huge area, and we're developing a program for wildland firefighting, which we already started, but then also a forestry program interacting with like work experience. And so we have the climate resiliency fund project and some other projects that are going on up there. So I'm just trying to connect with business owners that could employ the people that we train, and also just trying to stay up to date with input on what we need to have in our program to be the most applicable in the field, and not just have sort of a stale Deadwood type of program. And we're hoping a CAL FIRE grant can help sort of boost the school's investment into hiring a couple people to get the broader project started. As well as create the partnership kind of glue that we need across such a large service area. And how about Martin?
Yeah, good afternoon. Martin Tveer, Biomass Program Director for the Watershed Center. My organization is up in Trinity County, but I'm based out of Nevada County. I work on anything that utilizes underutilized, low value woody material biomass, from electrons to biochar to building products. Facilitate the California Ad Hoc Forest Biomass Working Group, and work with various groups on the Wildfire Forest Resilience Task Force.
Awesome. Fantastic. I think everyone's been introduced or introduced themselves. Thank you all for being here. It's a great group. We have some excellent complementary experience and similar goals. So thanks. It's now time for our plenary speaker, Tom Macejko. He'll be sharing his screen with a PowerPoint presentation. He's been an equity investor, private equity investor for 15 years. And now he's a strategy advisor to environmental and social impact businesses. And his topic today is Beyond the Grant, meeting your additional needs for funding, sources, and strategies. That's the short version. He's going to tell us more, and then we've allotted about 30 minutes for him if necessary, and then 15 minutes of Q&A. We may not need that much depending on the interest, but that may be not enough. Anyway, let's hear from Tom. Thank you so much, Tom, for being with us, and we know your experience is going to be very useful.
Great. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here today. Let me see if I can figure out how to share my screen here. Everybody can see that, I would hope.
Yes.
Perfect. So really helpful to hear the introductions from everybody today. Quite a few of you interested in hearing primarily about accessing grants and getting access to grant money. And while we're not going to be, I won't be talking directly about accessing the CAL FIRE grant and the mechanics behind it. There's other people that can talk about that very well. What I'm going to talk about is another consideration that is a critical part of the CAL FIRE grant application, and that is raising capital outside of the CAL FIRE grant. The way I look at it is the CAL FIRE grant is really one piece of a company's overall capital portfolio. It's not intended to be a one-stop, holistic funding mechanism for businesses. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is and why it's necessary to seek outside capital or additional capital. We'll also talk about some of the different types of capital that are available to businesses to fund their operations going forward, and some key considerations around those different types of capital. And finally, we're going to dig into financial modeling, just an overview of financial modeling and why it's so critical to telling your story, talking to investors, and raising capital along the path of your company's growth. So many of you are probably wondering why I'm here, why I was asked to speak on this, as I don't have deep experience within the California grant system or on the environmental world, quite frankly. But I'll give you a little bit of my background. As I like to put it, in my prior life, I was a private equity investor. I spent over 15 years at Madison Dearborn Partners, large private equity firm based here in Chicago. Was lucky enough to invest in and sit on the boards of some really wonderful companies, some brands you might recognize. Bolthouse Farms, based out of Bakersfield in California, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Yankee Candle, some other brands you might be aware of. While an investor, I was in charge of or charged with finding investment ideas, analyzing those investment ideas, negotiating them, executing them. Over my time at Madison Dearborn, I probably looked at 1,000 different opportunities. So I've been on the other side of the table from where you're going to be sitting as entrepreneurs trying to raise money for a long, long time. I also had the pleasure of sitting on the boards of many of these companies. Ruth's, I was a board advisor, but the rest of them I was a elected board member, and I was able to work with the senior management teams over the course of years, helping them think about their capital structure, their M&A activity, their growth strategy, their budgeting. So got a lot of experience working with companies as they thought about the life cycle of their business and raising capital and deploying capital in that way. After about 15 years at Madison Dearborn, I recognized that I loved working with the boards, with the senior management teams at the board level, and decided I'd like to do more of that type of work on a day-to-day basis. So I left Madison Dearborn and joined a very good friend of mine who was the CEO of Lou Malnati's Pizzeria, an iconic deep dish pizza place in Chicago. I joined.
All right. I can't hear Tom anymore. Is anyone else having that trouble?
Yeah, he disappeared.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, I can't. He's frozen on my screen.
All right. So let me chat with him. Oops. I guess we lost him. Is everyone else able to hear my voice? Just nod your head. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so the connection's okay, so hopefully he'll come back. Wait, there he is. Hello,
Sorry about
Tom.
that.
We lost you.
Can
You're
everybody
back.
hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yep. Can you share your screen again?
Yes, yes, yes.
Am I back now or not?
Yeah, you're back here. We can hear you, but now we don't see your slideshow.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened to my computer. I just got kicked out. Is that back?
Yeah, now you're back.
All right, I
Excellent.
apologize about that.
Mhm.
I was at Lou Malnati's for several years, overseeing the finance department, the HR department, supply chain, and architecting the growth strategy with the rest of the team. Right before the pandemic hit, unfortunately, my friend who was the CEO of the business left the company. They brought in a new CEO, and my tenure at Malnati's came to an end. I think the timing was a bit fortuitous. December, right before the pandemic, and I had a lot of time to kind of catch my breath and think about what I wanted to do going forward. And at that point, I decided what I really wanted to do was leverage my finance and strategy skills in a more meaningful way. Was lucky enough to be introduced to Jeff Odefee, who was at American Rivers at the time. And he was investigating the question of how do you finance green infrastructure projects at scale? So mostly stormwater initiatives, green stormwater initiatives, and what are the barriers to financing those at scale? I was lucky enough to work on 3 different projects with Jeff over a couple years, worked with Vance Russell, one of the other members of the Alliance, on a paper looking at what are the barriers to financing these projects. And coming out of that work, I had 3 conclusions or 3 observations. One is that, my traditional corporate finance and capital allocation experience and training really is applicable regardless of the entity structure. Whether you're a not-for-profit business, a for-profit business, a public-private partnership, it is the same types of questions and issues that everybody is wrestling with. I also observed that again, no matter what the entity structure is, a viable business model is essential. At the end of the day, everybody needs enough cash to pay their people, to execute their projects, And having that viable business model, whether you're generating the funds internally or raising the funds through donations and grants, you need to make sure you have enough resources over the long term to for your business to be viable. And the final observation, again, carry over from the corporate world is, again, regardless of your entity's structure, your capital structure should follow your business model. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. What I mean by that observation. So, the CAL FIRE grant is the reason that we're all on this conversation. So why am I talking about money beyond the grant? It's really for two main reasons. The first is, as any of you who have started the application or worked on the application know, there is requirements within the application to show access to additional capital. There are matching funds that are required for most projects within that are going to be applying for the CAL FIRE grant. Anything money you spend before you receive your grant will not be reimbursed by the CAL FIRE grant, and most indirect costs are not included in the grant funding. So just thinking within the CAL FIRE grant ecosystem, you will need access to additional capital. The second reason I wanted to talk about access to additional capital beyond the grant, and I think this is a more important reason, is that really for any business to be successful long term, you're going to need access to a portfolio of capital. The CAL FIRE grant is not really intended, as I said before, to be a one-stop shop holistic funding for an organization. You're either going to need internally generated funds or funds raised from an external source to fund your business over the long term. So as I think about moving beyond the grant and raising capital, I've got a couple of points that I summarize kind of my philosophy as I think about raising. Really having a holistic long-term view of your business is the place to start. Mark Ferguson did a presentation, I believe it was last year, to this group where he talked about building a business plan around a mission statement, around a value proposition. I think that's a great place to start. And building that, having that value proposition be the core of your business and everything following off of that. It will allow you to prioritize your objectives and make sure that you're not just chasing after random grant money, the latest shiny object that might provide you some capital if it doesn't fit within your broader business plan. One example I have of somebody chasing after the latest shiny object in my own experience is I was an early investor in a business, food manufacturing company based here in Chicago that needed more capacity to manufacture their food. Somebody told them about a grant that was available in New York State that they could apply for. They applied for the grant, they won the grant. The problem was they had to move their operations to New York to access the grant money. They were not prepared to do that. They didn't have the resources to do that. They couldn't bifurcate their workforce. They couldn't use the grant at the end of the day. So the entire process turned out to be a waste of time and energy. Felt good to win the grant, but was not useful at all for the future of the business. So I think a little more focus, a little more attention to detail, attention to their priorities would have helped them understand that that wasn't really the way to go. My second philosophical point about raising capital is that the business model really dictates the ideal capital structure and capital strategy. I think when you think about debt, this becomes pretty obvious. Knowing what your cash needs are going to be going forward, what your business strategy is, will keep you from taking on too much debt, for instance. Having too much debt, not being able to service it is a really easy way to hamstring the growth of your business. But this also is relevant for raising equity, making sure that you're raising the right amounts of equity, you're bringing the right partners to the table, are key questions to ask as you're thinking about your capital structure and capital strategy. I've said it a couple times, you're going to need a portfolio of capital sources over the course of a business life cycle, grants, loans, equity investments. Most businesses would benefit from accessing all of those as they grow. The second to last point here is more isn't always better. Just because somebody offers you money doesn't mean you have to take it. I can't tell you how many times I was offered more bank leverage, more than I wanted for the businesses I was working with. Banks are in the business of lending money, and they'll oftentimes give you more than is prudent for your company. And the same is true on the equity side. Again, I was an early investor in a business that had a very well thought out plan to raise money over 3 to 5 years as the company passed different stages of development. When they went out to raise,
Gracie?
I don't think that was a question. When they went out to raise their first round of capital after friends and family, a large investor came to the company and said, "It's a great 3-year plan. I will give you all the money today." And very hard for an entrepreneur to turn that down. But at the end of the day, they took in too much money early in the business's life cycle. They had one large investor that they became beholden to. What they wanted to do is what the management team had to do. And the money started burning a hole in their pocket. They made decisions that weren't appropriate for the business and were certainly outside of the original plan that they had put together. So just be very careful thinking about how much money you take and when you take it in your company's life cycle. And the final thing here is consider more than cost. When you're raising capital, the least expensive is not always the best route to go down. And we'll talk about on the next slide some of the other considerations outside of cost. So this slide's a bit busy. It's kind of meant to be busy to convey the complexity that's out there in the capital markets. I've laid out here 3 main buckets of capital: philanthropic capital, debt, and equity. On the left side, under philanthropic capital, those are your grants, donations to your business, forgivable loans, essentially funds that are provided to the company that don't have to be meeting certain criteria. They don't have to be paid back. Generally, these are tied to a specific cause, either environmental or social or other causes that the grantor is trying to further. In this type of capital, I think measuring your outcome is the critical piece of the equation. Is it Ephraim, I believe, if I pronounce that correctly? He made the observation in his introduction that which I thought was very astute, trying to make sure that his grant writing for a different audience is appropriate. And I think that's absolutely critical. And remember, I think there's actually a presentation on this tomorrow. Co-benefits are extremely valuable. I'm not talking about greenwashing. I'm not talking about double counting, but oftentimes the main benefit that you are focused on and delivering often has co-benefits along with it that are valuable. Reminds me of a conversation I was part of, or a presentation I saw where we were, it was a group of folks thinking about financing green stormwater initiatives. Talking to the head of the New Jersey state, the EPA funds that go to fund clean water programs. And his message was, if you come to me with a project for green stormwater initiatives and you convey the benefit of that initiative as as being flood control, I can't even consider that for funding. As the EPA, my mandate is clean water. If, however, that same project and that flood control can be shown and measured to keep water clean, I can fund those projects all day long. So you don't have to change anything. You don't have to do anything differently. You just need to be able to make sure you can measure that co-benefit in that project, and that your message to me is written in the proper way so that I can consider it. I just always remember that as a very clear way to think about the co-benefits. Turning over to the right side of the page here, kind of the for-profit capital, there are 2 main buckets. There's debt, which is money that is provided to you that you have to pay back over a certain set time period. And there's equity, where you're selling a piece of your business, but generally not required to, no obligation to return cash to the holders of that equity on any set schedule. Debt and equity can be cut into many different buckets. Again, this is not this is not an exhaustive list of the types of debt or the types of equity. Just know that it can get very granular. There can be hybrid structures that convert from one to the other, and it can feel very complicated. As you're thinking about, to make it even more complicated, as you're thinking about the types of capital to raise, there are many different things to consider, which is indicated by the arrows at the bottom of this page. And, you'll need to think about questions of what is the cost of this as you move from left to right. The type of capital gets more expensive. Equity is much more expensive than debt financing. On the other hand, as you move from the left to right on this page, the amount of cash you have to send out of your business to your investors decreases. So that could be a very, rational trade-off to take more expensive financing that has less cash need up front. If you're an early startup business that's not going to have a lot of excess cash. In general, the reporting requirements are going to be higher as you move to the right and move out to equity. So your obligations to report to your investors, to meet with your investors will increase as you move to the right. And the operating influence and outside expertise is going to increase as you move closer to the equity side of the equation. People will often demand more rights, more influence on your business as they invest closer to the equity side versus the debt side of the company. So how do you start making sense of all of this? How do you answer all these questions? How do you figure out what type of capital to go after? And in my mind, one of the first things to do is to build a financial model that will help you illuminate the answers to some of these questions, all these questions that you're going to have to answer. One of the first things people often say to me when I recommend building a financial model for a business is, since I can't predict the future, isn't it a waste of time to put together projections? And my answer to that is that, putting together a financial model is really not about predicting the future, but it's about having a tool that helps you understand what your business will look like given a specific set of assumptions. If sales are A, profitability will be B, and cash flow will be C. If sales are X, profitability will be Y, and cash flow will be Z. So being able to understand, given a set of assumptions, what your company is going to look like can be extremely valuable. Financial model also helps you translate your business into cash flows. As I've said several times, cash is king. At the end of the day, you're going to need cash no matter what your business looks like to pay your people, to execute your projects, and to sustain yourself over the long term. Financial model is also a really useful tool to ensure consistency across the organization. The CAL FIRE folks I know have emphasized making sure that all your documentation is consistent across your application. Is a nice mechanism to ensure that consistency, and I'll talk about that more as I move forward. And finally, investors are going to require projections. Any lender is going to require some projections to know that they're going to be paid back. And any equity investor is going to want to see projections so that they can see a reasonable path to value creation down the road. So as I talk about building a financial model, what I'm really talking about is a 3-statement model that includes an income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, all 3 of these working together to create a closed loop that will capture all the cash flows of your business. In general, models are 3 to 5 years in my experience, with the first year being much more detailed, either on a monthly basis or detail to build up for that model, and become less specific as you move out to subsequent years. And ideally, your financial model is going to be very flexible and allow you to change the key assumptions and have those assumptions flow through the model automatically. So as I said just a minute ago, one of the most valuable reasons to build a model is because it's a great forcing mechanism to make you think about the different aspects of your business and make sure they all mesh together. Obviously, as you're building your income statement, which is on the left-hand side here, you're going to have to think about things like how much product volume or how much service volume am I going to sell? How am I going to price that product or service? What What are the raw materials going to cost for that product? What are my manufacturing costs? What's the overhead I need to support this business? What does my sales force have to look like to achieve my sales objectives? What does my procurement department have to look like to procure the raw materials? So you'll have to think very carefully about your income statement and all these different variables that go into it. And then when you turn over to the balance sheet, you'll ask a different type of question, right? How quickly are my customers going to pay me? That'll flow through into your accounts receivable numbers on your balance sheet. How quickly am I going to have to pay my vendors? Do I have to pay them up front, or do I get some time to pay them after I receive my raw materials? That'll show up in your accounts payable balance sheet item. What is your inventory strategy? Is this a seasonal business where we're going to have to build a lot of inventory to meet demand in a short period of time? When I worked with Yankee Candle, we would essentially manufacture candles from Mother's Day to Thanksgiving and sell very few of them. We'd put hundreds of millions of dollars of candles on the shelf in a warehouse and sell them all from Thanksgiving to Christmas. So we had to be very thoughtful about what our inventory strategy was. And then when we sold them all very quickly, we had a huge influx of cash. We have to turn over our cash flow statement and think very carefully, what are we going to do with this cash? How much do we have to reserve for CapEx for the next year? Are we going to pay down debt? Are we going to send a dividend out to our shareholders right now? All the while thinking this cycle is just going to repeat itself next year. And I'm going to have to start building all this inventory again. And hopefully, if the business is growing, actually build more inventory than I did last year. So as you walk through the different statements, it's a really good mechanism to think about not only the day-to-day operations of your business, but your cash flow management and other aspects of your company as well. I talked a little bit about, or I mentioned that I think it's a great mechanism for forcing internal consistency across your business. And what I meant by that is each variable is going to impact each of the different statements. And it'll impact it in different ways, and maybe ways that you don't think about the first time through. Just using sales volume as a simple example, obviously your sales volume is going to drive your revenue. Sales volume is also going to dictate what your product costs are. Sales volume is also going to drive your CapEx, or one portion of your CapEx. If you don't have the capacity to build the sales volume that you're assuming, you're going to have to go out and buy that machinery. And as we just talked about in the Yankee Candle example, your volume is also going to drive your inventory assumptions. So really understanding what your volume assumptions are, the seasonality of that will influence what's going to happen there. And for any model to function properly, each of your assumptions and the impact of those needs to be reflected throughout each of the statements. And any well-built model will allow you to alter these assumptions, and that corresponding impact will flow through the statements automatically. So spent a lot of time talking about modeling. It's supposed to be a conversation about raising capital. So how do they come together? Really the model will help shape your capital structure. It will allow you to ask questions and answer questions that will dictate what type of capital, how much capital you're going to be seeking. At the very high level, your model will be able to tell you how much cash you'll need and over what time period. So when you go to investors, you'll be able to convey to them what your cash is needed for and how much runway you're going to get out of their investment. It will also help you peel back what are the main drivers of any cash deficit that you are seeing in your business. Is it operations? If it's operating cash flow, operating deficit, operating losses that you're funding over several years, it might nudge you towards an equity raise because you're not going to have excess cash to pay down debt. If there's a big chunk of CapEx that you have to spend for equipment, the short, maybe that nudges you more towards raising some debt, because once you bring that equipment online, the cash flow will start flowing through and it can pay the debt back. Also, another nuance, another thing you can dig into is what is the type of outside expertise I might want to bring to my company through my investors. As I look at my model, what are the key drivers of my revenue growth? Am I looking for new customers? Am I entering new geographies? Am I buying other businesses? And depending on the answer to those questions and what's driving your revenue, it might lead you to investors that have that expertise. finding folks that have a track record with that particular growth strategy could be very helpful to your company. Likewise, if margin improvement is going to be what's driving your business's cash flow growth, that is working for businesses doing a similar thing can be very helpful as you're raising capital. So I think the model really helps inform what type of capital, how much capital, and what your investors could bring to the table to help you going forward. I'll wrap up here in a minute, but I included in here, an example from a pitch deck that I received just last week. This is a real world example. I copied this directly out of their book. And this was a startup business that I spoke to about a year ago. They were an idea on a napkin, essentially. Had a really interesting product idea, but didn't really have a business model put together. Was really happy to see this book the other day when they sent it back, and a year later, they've clearly done a ton of work around their business plan, thinking about their business, and were able to, in one page, really convey a lot of information to an interested investor. They've raised a portfolio of capital. They've got a grant from the USDA. They've got a small business loan, and they're seeking additional equity capital. Looking at their uses on the right-hand side, they clearly have a very well built out model that shows, the CapEx that they need to fund over the next couple of years to put their manufacturing capacity in place. They've identified the amount of working capital that they're going to need to raise to build their product and sell it. And they've clearly identified marketing as their key driver for revenue growth going forward. And they've set aside, a quarter of their total uses just to drive that marketing. And I would hope as I talk to them, they're going to find some investors that have some experience there and bring some people around the table that will help drive the business through their marketing acumen. So I'll stop talking. It's always tough on a Zoom call with a little screen to know if anybody's still paying attention. But the conclusion page here is really nothing more than what I've already said about raising capital and the importance of building a model to do it. So I'll stop sharing and take a deep breath, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Tom. That was very insightful. Anyone have any?
Did you have a question?
I have a question. Okay, from what I'm seeing, I'm working with a friend's business. It's a small business, 3 guys. And I'm beginning to wonder if maybe we're too small. Does that make any sense? From what we're doing, we're asking for a mulch. We're going to be asking for a mulcher for $360,000, and he's got a plot of land, a job he's already gotten, but apparently that's 60 acres only, and he's going to clear, replant. So I figured out the greenhouse gas. I'm getting a clue about co-benefits, but I'm not sure it's going. I'm thinking, from what I'm gathering, they may not be out of the running or as competitive with some other businesses. It just may take longer to get together a better thought out business plan, etc. Because I know I can the business, the mission statement of serving, protecting people, property, California resources, that I've got down. The even if he can try to, the people that he was a hotshot person, he worked for the forestry, California forestry, and so are his 2 employees. But that's all he could see training. But I thought, well, and he's also going to be giving some of the wood products to a tribe that has asked him for some, and being Native American, that's dear to his heart. So I've got some of the things. I just think, I don't know. I think I'm a little intimidated.
Yeah, I'm not the expert on the size that is needed, but it doesn't strike me that you would be, quote, too small. It actually, if they are, and from what I understand about the CAL FIRE grant, what they really want to do is fund specific projects. So if it's for a mulcher, if that's part of the business, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's more of an expert on this, sounds like that could actually be very in line with the CAL FIRE mandate. The
Yeah.
question would be, can you show the resources around that mulcher that it is going to be a viable business, you know, and you have the funding outside of just buying that piece of machinery?
Okay.
But it doesn't have, my example at $8 million, just because it was a real world example and that's what they
Yeah.
were raising, I wouldn't be intimidated by that number at all.
Okay.
It's about knowing that you know, in addition to the funds you're raising for this piece of equipment, there will be requirements for matching funds.
Yes.
But there's no minimum size requirement from my understanding.
Okay. Okay. Then I'm reading it correctly. You've given me some self-confidence that I'm thinking in the right direction. Okay. Thank you.
I'd love to jump in and just offer a little bit more. I think that's really helpful, Tom, what you've said, and also I think, Becky, one of the ways to think about this is less about not necessarily being too small or too big, although you know, there's a minimum award amount of 10,000 and a maximum of $1 million that for a specific grant, the grant request amounts dictate how much match you need to provide. But really, I think what matters more than the size is how prepared you are and how you can really show the readiness of your project or your request based on the size of what you're asking for. So if you came in to ask for $1 million and it was really clear that you're a small company without a lot of experience and, you know, you don't have any letters of support and your business plan is really brief, then they would look at that and question whether or not you could really manage maybe that size of grant. So it's like being able to be consistent across your request. If you're saying that you have a partnership with a tribal entity that is going to take some of the materials, getting a letter from that organization to say, you know, we support this project or we're prepared to work with this applicant, that kind of thing is really helpful. So it's more about just really having all of your materials in place and as good as possible based on the size of your request and the size and experience of your business.
Yes. 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 Okay. That's the way I was. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
And I did want to add, this is just a little bit of an aside, but I'll put it in the chat. We are having a workshop tomorrow focused on the co-benefits aspect of this. And for an applicant like you, Becky, being able to say where and what you're going to use the equipment to do is really important. And that's going to inform some of your co-benefits language. But they're okay with that being relatively indirect and qualitative instead of having hard and fast sort of numbers of things. But if you're interested in digging into that a little bit more, I'll put
I'm already registered. Yes. Yes. Thank you. I'm registered. I'm going. Thank you.
Oh, great. Great.
Tamara, did you have a question?
Yeah. Thanks for your presentation. I feel like you were getting into the real nuts and bolts, interesting stuff at the end. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on bank loans? Should we wait for the federal interest rate to go down? Is that going to be looking a little better toward the end of the year? We do need some cash flow right now in Q2, Q3, so we're considering different options. We have a potential philanthropic loan, which is more friendly loan terms, which we're excited about. But if that doesn't come through, we'll have to be looking at leveraging our current existing assets and then looking at potential bank loan.
Yeah, I am not one to predict where interest rates are going. I never have been. I never will be. If I could tell you where they're going, I could make a lot of money. So I would say I would not wait on critical funding based on, you know, a thought on where interest rates are going to go. I would, move forward and not be paralyzed thinking that they're going to get better or worse. I mean, I thought interest rates were going to go up for a decade before they did. So made a lot of decisions based on thinking they were going to go up a lot earlier than they did. So you could probably talk to other people that would give you a different opinion on this, but I would say move forward and get your funding in place, and don't try to time the markets.
And then from an equity lens, how much does it cost to close kind of an equity deal? Is that just higher? You said it's more expensive because of the legal costs associated with it, or what did that refer to on the chart?
Okay, so no, when I say cost, I mean it probably is more expensive to close an equity deal, but what I was talking about was the actual cost of the financing. So your bank debt is going to have an interest rate associated with it, and that's it, right? That's your cost of that. Your equity, a little harder to price, but any equity investor is going to price their baseline capital at a much more expensive rate than bank debt. If bank is at 5%, equity is going to be at 30%. And there's also really no if your takes off and is a home run, that ends up being very costly financing. I think Peter Thiel invested $500,000 in Facebook. That $500,000 turned out to be worth $1.5 billion, or $1 billion to $1.5 billion from what I've read. From Facebook's perspective, that's pretty expensive, $500,000. If it had been a bank loan, they would have paid it back at interest and gotten it back. So that's what I'm talking about, is the not the cost to raise. It's the cost of the capital will be more expensive as you move out towards equity. Probably, that being said, it is more expensive to raise equity. Due diligence is going to be deeper. It's going to be harder to do that, but
oh, we just lost Tom. Darn.
Well, Heidi, maybe Heidi could introduce herself. Did you show up a little late?
I did show up a little late. And I'm with Ethos Environmental. We're a fairly small, oh, sorry. There we go. We're a fairly small nonprofit. We're looking at doing wood products grant, but not necessarily for business. We're looking to develop a product that other nonprofits can use in remediation work, specifically a water cleansing, what do you even call it? A water cleansing practice using some of the biofuels that are removed during fuels reduction work. So it's less a business development, I suppose, or maybe I'd need to readjust my thinking around the projects, but that's one of the main interest points that I'm in here listening, and I am signed up for your workshop tomorrow. Thank you for posting the link. One of the things we struggle with is defining our co-benefits, how much to explain about what area, how deeply to go into actual numbers versus the high level, oh, this is going to clean the water and this is going to save all the pretty little birds and bees. So that part of your presentation has been exceptionally helpful, and I did turn in late, so got busy on a grant we're working on.
Thank you for being here. Tom, Heidi was just introducing herself, and now you're back.
Thank you for putting on this.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't remember where you were, Tom, but in your answer.
I think I was rambling, but it was pretty much done. That it costs more. It does cost more to raise, but the real consideration is the actual cost of the financing, in my mind.
And do you have time to look at business plans to kind of forecast with us a little bit, like what's the best option for financing the stage of our business at this time?
I'd be happy to look at what you have and ask questions, and
great.
See if I can offer any guidance.
That'd be great. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
I have a question that I'd like to ask Tom. What the question kind of focuses around navigating that intersection of experts in different things for technology and forest management, and then also for investment or like equity investment. Is there any type of, or any particular questions you like to ask to initially feel out, one, if someone's a good fit, and two, like their legitimacy? For example, like towards someone who comes in with, just as a background, you know, we have lots of people who are always coming from the woodworks, from you know, ranging from a prince of a foreign country to someone who feels like they have really legitimate credentials for investment funds. But I always am trying to find the most efficient way to, one, ask a question that, you know, or questions that feel out the fit, and then also two, that establishes their credibility as well. Is there anything that you like to do or advice that you have in navigating that kind of area? Oh, I think he's gone.
No, I'm here.
Oh, never mind.
I'm here.
Okay.
I turned off my video hoping to stabilize the internet a little bit. No, I would say, to me, as far as establishing credibility, is their track record. Really, there's nothing that beats talking to somebody or having somebody that can show that what you're looking for them to bring to the table, they've done before. They've worked with the company, it was part of their career, they have that direct experience. So that's, you know, one thing that I would look for. You know, I always wanted an investor. I always wanted companies to ask me what my experience was working with branded businesses, right? Like if that's what they really wanted, I could show them that I had done that, right? If it was, I don't know, something on the logistics side, I had a Sorry.
Not a problem.
I'm going to turn off my video here, and hopefully that will make it a little more stable. So that was one thing. And then as far as figuring out whether they're going to be a fit or not, wow, that is the $1 million question. Is we would talk to management teams and we would try to figure out whether or not we were going to be a fit for the next 5 to 10 years together in the same boardroom. There's nothing beats spending time with people. Nothing beats talking to their references, other people that they've worked with over time, and understanding how they've interacted with them. I like to talk to people about deals that didn't go well, right? Ask them to introduce you to somebody on a deal that didn't go well and get their opinion. That's always very telling. If there's a deal that didn't go well, and the investor and the company are still in good, you know, in a good position, then you know that they could, you know, at least work together. So, but that's a really tough question, and a big part of the.
No, thank you. That was very helpful. I really appreciate that.
I don't have a great test. Yeah.
No worries. That was a wonderful response. Thank you. Very helpful. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Tom, I had one question if no one else is going to go.
Sure.
Just this helping companies take that step back that you talked about, from to look at your mission statement, you know, like there always seems to be, it's very compelling what's next and what we're wrestling with in the short term. And then it seems harder to take the step back and really get a sense of the mission of the company. And because partly what you said, it's hard to predict the future. And so how do you encourage companies to take that step back and really get a focus on the core purpose of their company, and not to get sidetracked by shiny things?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, I really liked Mark's presentation from last year, maybe the year before, one of the early presentations where I think it's harder to actually take a step back once you're down the road if you didn't take that step initially. And really, really thinking, as a startup, thinking about what is your mission, what are you trying to accomplish, and having that mission statement be your North Star, the thing that you stay focused on. Then you always have something to go back to and check your plans against, check your ideas against. And if you're going to go away from that North Star, that mission statement, why are you doing that? So, I would encourage folks to define it up front, really concentrate on what they're trying to deliver, what their reason for being is, and to use that going forward, and to constantly go back and check against that mission statement.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right. Anyone else? We still got a little time in the Q&A. All right. I think other questions may come up. You have Tom's email address is in the chat. And he was telling me that he's happy to take questions and hear from folks.
Yep.
Afterwards. I think next on our agenda it would be the breakout groups, if there's interest. Let's try, if everyone, I tried to make the feature available where you could pick your own breakout group so I think you would click on maybe the more part of your screen down below, and you'll see breakout groups, breakout rooms, and then go in there and maybe pick the room you'd be interested in. We'll be gone for 15-20 minutes. And this will be the chance to really get to know each other, learn a little more about what each other is wrestling with. I think there's some real common themes that you're all working with. And I'll give you about a minute of notice that you'll come on. It looks like Martin's taking off. So how about give that a try? Does that sound like a good idea? The groups that I put there were business development, sawmills, workforce, forest management, biomass management. All right, Becky doesn't see the breakout rooms. Is anyone else having trouble seeing those?
I don't see them either.
Okay, I think does everyone so you look at the options on the bottom of your screen, right? And then one of those, I don't see breakout rooms on my list, but then when I click more, up comes a list of things, and one of those options is breakout rooms. And then when I click on breakout rooms, I get the
I don't think we have a more option, Jim. I'm not seeing a more
okay.
on my list.
You might need to open the rooms first before we see them.
More.
I have
I
a
don't-
more, but it's for stopping the video.
All right, I just opened all the rooms. Thank you.
Yeah.
They're not trying. They weren't open.
Yep. Got them.
And so can everyone see those options?
Yes, thank you.
And I guess if you end up in a group by yourself, you can come back out and maybe join another group.
Sort of waiting to see where people end up. Now I can.
Yeah, try that.
Jess, do you feel like chatting about Sonoma County stuff in the Sawmill group? Yeah. Looks like somebody else went to Sawmills too, but that's okay. I'll head over there.
I have to hop off, Jim, but I just wanted to thank you for the meeting. I got to hop onto another call, but I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon, and I'll I'll have some questions via email as well. But thank you very much. We really appreciate this.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us, Ephraim. Really nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
have a good day. You as
All
well,
right,
Chris.
you too.
Bye, Frank. Who's left? So, Carrie, you're still there? So
Carrie.
it looks like there's one person in forest management.
Maybe I'll hop in there with Heidi and see if she has anything she wants to talk about. Maybe she came back out.
There's someone in forest management still. I don't know who it
Heidi,
is.
if you wanted to talk about anything about forest management or about your proposal, I'm happy to chat with you a little bit more. I don't know if that would be helpful.
I'm down for that if Jim and Christopher don't mind being assaulted.
No, I don't mind. And I can join one of the other groups too. I just don't know who's in forest management still.
Oh, I was in forest management just a minute ago, but then I left
Oh.
back out because, yeah, that was it.
I'm gonna jump in that one just to see who it is, and then I'll come back out if there's no one there.
Okay, well, is forest management someplace where we talk about fuels reduction and using those products? I didn't know if that was workforce or biomass or forest management.
I think it's kind of all of the above. It's a little bit, these topics all sort of overlap, and it really kind of depends on what people are interested in talking about more than anything else.
Copy that.
And especially with, a small group, we can talk about whatever is helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah,
there's no one in there.
Oh, that was me then.
Yeah.
Well, one of the projects that I'm working for right now is a forest health pilot program through NCRP. It hasn't been announced yet. They're just doing some technical assistance work. And so I'm trying to get some technical assistance. I've already won one TA grant of 15,000. And then one from CAL FIRE to expand on that work specifically towards what we want to do. And what we want to do is work with the local Mendocino County Fire Safe District to do roadside fuels reduction. They have CEQA covered 50 feet off of the roadside, which is phenomenal. I'm like, how did you even get that? That's fantastic. So work with them and support them in getting fuels reduction work along emergency access roads, places where firefighters might have trouble getting in and out because of fuel loads, and condition of the roads and that sort of thing. And then take those fuels reduction biomass, which are still fresh, and then use them for erosion control in class 4 gullies. Okay, so we don't need CEQA because it's class 4, it's all just drainage. And I'm working with 2 hydrologists who are experienced in this, and we're discussing a couple of different things. One, there's doing the work and proving that it works. We're not the first ones in the field doing this. This isn't, rocket science. It's not brand new nuclear, whatever, really complicated, but there is nobody out there that's sort of codified it or said, hey, when your gully is X wide and, Z deep, and you have, then you're going to want so many 4-inch fillers, so many 8-inch, so many brush, so much yada, yada, yada. And this is how you stack it. And this is how you peg it. And this is how you keep invasives out of it, that sort of a thing. So develop something that other nonprofits can use, or hire these particular hydrologists to move forward and assist them in a cost-effective manner to do this work, which is not only going to clarify water as it drips off the watershed out of these drainages, but it's also going to help repair these roads that not only residents, these are a lot of really rural dirt roads primarily. They're not even asphalt, and they're in seriously friable areas. It's like Spy Rock Road, Bell Springs, which is known for having really silty clay soils. Horrible erosion, super friable. So have that contribute as well to water clarity in these watersheds. So right now it's still feels like a really big project idea, and I'm trying to drill it down and separate it out into different opportunities where it'll fit. And one of the things I've been struggling with is when I approach the section, and I'm going to go a little bit off here because we're so small, we can't really we don't feel like we can afford financing. We don't have the history to support it. We don't have any sort of proven business model out there that we can base this sort of work on that we're aware of. So I put that to one side, and I'm absorbing the knowledge from all y'all so that when we are in that place, we're ready or more ready, or we know to come back to y'all and talk about it. But one of the things that's really challenging is approaching this co-benefits section. So I'm really looking forward to the meeting tomorrow, but approaching this co-benefits section and having it and knowing how to address it, because right now they're like, what are the co-benefits? And privately inside my head, I'm like, are you nuts? Can you not see them? They are so clear.
Yeah.
And I don't really know how to approach that, because I feel like I'm a kindergarten teacher trying to tell a PhD
Right.
about their own field of expertise.
Right. Well, so I mean, I think in this case, a couple of things to keep in mind, for CAL FIRE, especially if, as far as co-benefits go, they need to include co-benefits and greenhouse gas emissions reductions, because the source of funding is from the California Climate Initiatives program.
Right.
And so they themselves are trying to figure out how to make this program fit with what they're funding. And what they have said is that they expect that a lot of these benefits are going to be relatively indirect, because most of the projects that are funded through business and workforce development are not on the ground forest health, forest management projects. The projects support forest health, and they increase the pace and scale of forest management, but they themselves don't always, they sometimes do, but they don't always have on the ground elements. They need to be tied to something specifically on the ground, but they themselves are not saying we're going to address fuel loads on XYZ acres necessarily. So it's a little bit tricky, because they try and keep their guidelines relatively broad so that lots of different kinds of businesses and entities can benefit from the funding. But it means that they're trying to sort of pin down a hard and fast answer is a little tricky. But what they've said for co-benefits is that they want something that's concise and specific. So when you're talking about improving water quality, that's a clear co-benefit. And you don't need to describe it using any of their calculator tools. You can look at those tools, but you don't have to do anything in depth. It can be qualitative. It doesn't have to be quantitative.
Does the quantitative increase the likelihood that to be really frank,
not
the
necessarily
attractiveness of the project?
I mean, not necessarily. What
Okay.
increases the attractiveness of your project is that you can fully say this project is ready to go. We have the partnerships in place that will allow us to implement it. We can implement it quickly, and basically, like having all of your ducks in a row and showing how your request is directly applicable to their priorities. That's going to be the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think the showing that how they're applicable, especially with the co-benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, the regular part, yeah, great. Let's.
And things like repairing rural roads. I mean, I live in an area with a lot of high severity fire risk, lots of dirt roads. I myself live on a dirt road. And that kind of public safety is also a co-benefit that you can point to. If you follow the link to see what your priority populations are in terms of low income communities or disadvantaged communities.
Solidly.
Yeah, so if you can point to that and say, according to this map, for census, blah, 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 GeoID number, which you can find on their link to that priority populations mapping tool. It's really being able to say those specific things, that is more important than having like these huge co-benefits that are, millions of, tons of greenhouse gas emissions avoided or carbon sequestered. These things, being specific is more important than the scale for co-benefits in particular.
Okay, that's comforting. That's comforting, because I was like, okay, I need to spend like 2 weeks searching down all of these little numbers to throw in here just to prove that the water's cleaner now, or, you know, the roads are safer for emergency personnel or what have you.
If you can say that in a concise, qualitative way to say this project will help improve this, that's going to be sufficient. And if they see things that they feel could be quantified, they will work with you after the grant award to run the model themselves and to use the calculator tool themselves. And in that case, what they've said is that they would ask you for a shape file for the geographic location where you'll do the project, and that's what they would ask for to do that work.
Right. Well, that's pretty standard, isn't it?
Yeah. And you don't even need to submit that with the grant application. That's just post award if you're awarded.
Cool. This is very comforting. I suddenly feel a whole lot less. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's really daunting. And then when you look at a lot of those calculators, a lot of smart people have done a lot of work thinking about this. But in this case, you know, they don't want you to be just making it up, but they also don't want it to be something that they recognize that it's a relatively indirect connection for most of these projects. So yeah, being all the things, being specific, being qualitative is just fine.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Good, you're welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I should get out my grant thing and we'll just go through it section by section.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being able to just hearing your argument sounds actually a lot easier to make than a lot of other folks that I've talked to who are, say, just buying, you know, a tractor to move logs and nothing else. You know, some of these things are a little harder, but having this like direct use for the woody biomass is great.
Yeah, we're super excited about it. We looked into biochar too, but that actually requires a drying stage for most, unless you're buying this, you know, $300,000, $600,000, whatever, really cool biochar trailer with the little track wheels and the air curtain that goes over the top. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've been working with a group that is looking at biochar and using it on some abandoned mine sites, and it's really cool.
That is enormously cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think someone down in Sonoma County has one. And
well, I think there was some kind of conference focused on biochar that a lot of, I think, relatively nerdy forest management folks attended, and they were very excited. So cool.
Yeah, I just wish we had the $600,000 to buy one.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, here, use it, little nonprofit. There you go.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have talked about trying to find, you know, whether or not there's room for an organization in some region to apply for starting like an equipment borrowing library or some kind of like, you know, shared. It rapidly got really complex for the group that we were talking with about doing that, and you know, it's so far outside of my own personal knowledge base, but it sounds like a really cool idea.
Right. And we're as our little org, little ethos. Oh, this way. One of the things we really wanted to do is because this area is so depressed and disadvantaged. I mean, literally, there are no jobs. Our local grocery store left. We have a gas station and I think 2 liquor stores, and one of them is going under. So it's bad back here. There just isn't the employment. And one of the problems that comes along with that is people don't have the chainsaws to do their own fuels reduction. People don't have the chainsaws to cut and sell firewood, you know, with the appropriate permits, I'm sure. They don't have the tools they need to actually make some income or learn the skills to join a fuels reduction team or a fire department or go out on their own and, help better finance areas. We have a town nearby that has plenty of people that are constantly looking for, lawn helpers, things that people can do on their own. And Ethos is our whole reason for existence, is helping rural communities and small family farmers meet environmental problems. And so we came up with the idea, hey, maybe what we need to do is get the tools that all of these people need, and they can sign them out for a day, sign them out for a week. Maybe they have a small membership to come in and that will cover, you know, the insurance or something. This is all pie in the sky still. You know, so you've probably gotten much more involved than this.
I've only been hearing
but-
about these things, but that sounds really exciting, and also sounds frankly like something that CAL FIRE, this Business and Workforce Development Fund, would support, you know. So thinking about that, you know, that's being able to
Interesting.
enable people to do the work to you know, improve forest health. I think, yeah, that could be.
And they're trying to reach groups that, you know, traditionally haven't been able to get to them, you know, that are, because there's a certain crowd that knows how to get to them pretty easily. And I think groups like yours are a little further away. So I think they want to meet, they want to support the type of work you're doing.
Keep the good words coming, man.
Yeah. It's great.
All right. I think I closed all it was only the only group that kept going was continuing with Tom. I guess the sawmill people had to take off. So we're kind of dwindled down.
Becky was with us with Tom and Sherilyn and I. So I don't know. She may have exited as well.
Okay, she might have bailed out.
Well, seeing as how I'm like the fangirl right now of all y'all, let me ask another question, because Jim just mentioned, you know, they're looking for little groups who are doing something like that. Now, sorry, Christopher, Sherilyn, and Tom, we were talking about starting like a tool sharing shed isn't the right word, but a cooperative for people in a particular disadvantaged area to be able to come and get the tools, to get the training they need to get jobs, or to even just improve their own situations in regards to fuels reduction, that sort of work. And that might be something that CAL FIRE would be interested in someday, you know, hearing a proposal on. But part of that wouldn't be for necessarily enhancing workforce. Part of that is just, you know, people who are disadvantaged, who don't have the money to go out and buy a chainsaw, being able to come and sign out a battery powered chainsaw, use it. So you're not dealing with fuels, you're just dealing with a little, you know, oil in the case, and then returning it so they can do their own fuel load reduction, so they can do their own fire safety work around their place. Maybe have one of these fancy little remote controlled mowers or something, so that even the elderly in our area could borrow it, cut down their grasses without having to expend a lot of personal muscle power. But it doesn't necessarily enhance a workforce. Is that something CAL FIRE might still be interested, or is that a little more out in left field that you've seen them fund?
I think it's a little bit further, just because, you know, they really do have this workforce focus. However, you know,
could it be listed as a co-benefit of the workforce development part?
I think so. I think there was a California Association of Resource Conservation Districts project that was awarded, that was all about training different individuals to implement forest health activities. And I mean, I think that you might want to, you know, describe that program, like the portion of that program that CAL FIRE would probably be most interested in would be people who could then potentially go and use those skills to get employment somewhere. But I think that, you know, I don't know if you have an RCD in the area, but partnering with some organization that has some kind of connection to private landowners or to individuals could sort of help. But I think you would have to focus in a little bit more on the training aspect of it for this particular CAL FIRE grant program.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous. Thank you.
I do, Heidi, I'm gonna see if I can find it super quickly, but I have a link that might be it's focused on, it's from the wildfire task force, and it's private landowner assistance. But
yeah, I
do you
think
know
I've seen
about
that.
that website?
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
Okay, they have all kinds of, I think that some of it is just, you know, informational resources, but I wonder too about, I don't know, some funding resources that could be available here. And as I'm talking, I'm feeling really, I've been trying to work with the Yuba County Resource Conservation District to help them develop projects. And I wish that you were on the same landscape, because
Oh, that would be
you're on
marvelous.
like opposite sides of the same issue. You need a Heidi in Yuba County and a DJ
Yeah,
for ethos.
I would be totally down for that. I love actually partnering with larger groups that have more of their ducks in a row. Like Mendocino Fire Safe Council has been nothing but a dream to work in, and maybe that's not typical, but it has been absolutely the best partnership I could have ever dreamed of so far. And we don't, you know, we're working on a wildfire prevention grant through CAL FIRE.
Oh, great.
So we have one submitted, and it's just, they were fantastic. And because I joined with them, they got really excited about the region, and they're doing another smaller project right next door, like the next road up, getting more CAL FIRE priority zones. Chink, 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 chink. So it's starting to get this area kind of cleaned up a little bit, or will.
That's great. Okay.
Sorry, I get excited easily.
It's good.
I
All
just
right.
wanted to add that the Placer Resource Conservation District has a program exactly just like what you described, where you can rent like chainsaws and a chipper and all of that. And I think they got the equipment through a CAL FIRE grant, but I can ask them how they got that, how it was funded.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah, the local MCFSC has a program where you can rent their chipper or borrow their chipper at a reduced rate. And sometimes it comes with people to do the work. So I don't want to step on their toes with that too much. But it's really hard to get tools up here in the north. They're down in the south end of Mendocino. So having a set up north would just be, yeah.
Do you mind putting your email in the chat, and then I can
Sure.
just send the information when I get it?
All right. I think we've reached
Oh.
the happy ending of our happy meeting. Good to see everyone. Tom, thank you
Likewise.
so much. Awesome
Yeah,
presentation.
nice job, Tom. That was really well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Very
Thank you very
approachable.
much. It was fun.
Yeah, we'll hope that you'll be hearing from some of our group.
That'd be great.
Yeah, maybe see some of you tomorrow.
Yes, you'll see us all tomorrow. Or at least
At least most of us.
at least Carrie and I. You'll see Carrie and I tomorrow.
All
There
right.
you
Good luck
go.
with that. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be in
Bye.
touch.
Thank you all.
See you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you guys.
All right. Good luck with the workshop tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hey, do you know if when I sign off this thing, do you know where the recording goes?
Why don't you stop the recording, and then we could talk about a couple of the things.
So stop recording.